medieval news. Today we have news about the 100 Years' War. As you know, this war went on for a very long time, lasting over 115 years. All the battles of the 100 Years' War were fought in France. No sooner did the English win than did the French. This war is often divided into 3 or 4 different parts. It all started in 1337. Those parts are the Edwardian War, 1337 to 1360, the Caroline War, 1369 to 1389, the Lacratian War, 1415 to 1429, and the slow decline after the appearance of Joan of Arc in 1412 to 1431. In the 1430s, France slowly began dividing the English out.
The war gave birth to ideas of both French and English nationalism. Militarily, it saw the introduction of new weapons and tactics. The first standing armies in Western Europe since the time of Western Roman Empire were introduced for the war, changing the role of peasantry. Feudalism also became less and less significant throughout the war. For all this, as well for its long duration, it's often been viewed as one of the most popular conflicts in the history of medieval warfare.
We had the opportunity earlier in the war to interview many of the people involved, including a peasant, noble, and even Joan of Arc herself.
Throughout today's broadcast, you will get to experience 4 different perspectives on the board topic.
Cianna joins us live on the scene with a very involved person telling us her perspective on the war.
Thank you, Naomi. Joining us today is King Henry I, the man who was known for invading France again in the year 1415. Now, before I begin asking questions, let me see if I'm right. It was mentioned that he was part of a long truce, but then went back to fight.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you're right.
If you don't mind, I would like to ask you 3 questions.
Not at all.
What feelings do you have about the war? That's okay, take your time.
I'm sorry, I get so emotional when I think about this.
Whenever we just stay so mad in another line.
Feelings for the war, no. The only thing I care about is crushing France and getting more power.
Sorry.
So what you're telling me is you have no respect for the French. Wow. So do you really believe you might have a chance against the French?
Well, as you ask, I do believe I have a great chance over the French because my men are strong and well prepared, unlike yours.
Do you ever have second thoughts? Like, what if you fail?
I won't, I'll win.
Okay, moving on. What do you feel is your great advantage over the French?
The crossbows we used to fight are much better than whatever you guys use. Okay? And our heavy armor is pretty good too.
Well, there you go. Thank you for your time. We all hope you come to lose the war.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cianna. As they said, the nobles and high-class people's status is rapidly decreasing. The major contributing factor is this is the decline of feudalism, something we'll learn about later.
Okay. It may seem bad, but the decline of feudalism is starting to benefit these countries in ways we touch upon later.
As you can see, the war may seem all harsh, but there are many pros and cons. For example, a pro of this war would be the new and involved weapons, tactics used by the French and even the English.
Speaking of weapons and tactics, Gillian has a special broadcast telling us all about these impressive weapons used in the 100 Years of War.
We are teenage hearts.
Naomi. As many know, there are many weapons used to fight during the 100 Years' War. Well, today I will be introducing the different types of weapons and the armor that is used to fight during the war. There are a countless number of weapons that both the French and the English used to fight. But some of the most commonly used weapons for the French are swords and lances. There are many different makings of swords that soldiers use, such as two-handed swords. These swords are very light and weigh about 10 to 15 pounds. Lances are pole weapons or spears designed to be used by a mounted warrior. A lance is longer, stout, and heavier than an infantry spear, and unsuited for throwing or for rapid thrusting. Another very commonly used weapon is the longbow. The English used these to fight against the French. This particular weapon can sometimes kill armored knights and often the horses on which they ride. The majority of longbows are made from yew, but ash, hazel, and elm are also used. Their strings are made from hemp because it is the strongest and least elastic fiber available. They range from about 6 to 7 feet in length. It is the most feared weapon in the war. This just in! I've just been informed that the French armies have learned to use gunpowder to shoot iron balls from cannons and blast holes in castle walls. They have also learned to fire missiles from crossbows that are capable of penetrating armor. Now, some foot soldiers can use these crossbows. This is a great discovery that will surely help us to win the war. The French's armor is very heavy. It is heavier than the armor that the English use. It weighs from 66 to 110 pounds. The French can barely move in it when they aren't on horseback. The exertion of carrying this steel plate armor places additional weight on each limb and hampers the wearer's breathing, therefore making them weaker in a fight. This is a shield that the French use to protect themselves from all of the weapons that I mentioned earlier, especially the longbow. Well, I hope you enjoyed this informative segment on weapons and armor used in the 100 Years' War. Back to you, Naomi and Cianna.
Thank you, Gillian, for that enlightening segment about medieval armor and weapons.
Stay tuned after this commercial break for an interview with a noble named William Smith.
Say it.
Crossbows, live on, they'll kill you in the arm. Get your crossbows.
Welcome back to Channel 100 Medieval News. I'm Naomi and this is Cianna, broadcasting live from our station.
As promised, here is an interview with William Smith, a noble from the 100 Years' War, telling us his opinion on this ongoing topic.
Hi, my name is Deidre, and joining me today is Mr. John Smoot, a noble here during the 100 Years' War.
Good afternoon.
Could I ask you some questions about your life during this war against England?
Of course.
My first question is, due to the decline of feudalism, how do you feel about your decreasing power?
I'm very sad about my decreasing power because I feel as I am no longer as important in society. Everything is starting to equal out, everybody being the same, which is something many other people and I certainly don't approve of.
Do you think this war will affect the country in a positive or negative way?
I think the war is going to be bad for the two countries because we may just end up fighting for longer and we'll never know when it will end. Also, if they keep on fighting, many will die and many will also go into debt, leaving the countries without much to show for this year's struggle.
Do you think this war will end anytime soon?
I believe that it's coming to a close ending, but with how unpredictable it has been lately, it is impossible to foresee what will happen with this war.
Do you believe the English's advantages over us will allow them to win?
I don't think that the English will win, even though they have a supposedly bigger army, because we have learned how to use advanced weapons and new fighting techniques.
Instead of having a war, do you think you should use something like a peace treaty and call it quits?
Things like that have been attempted before, but none have ever worked. The English just want to invade this country, and I won't agree to a simple peace treaty before they back down.
My last question for you. How do you feel about this fight?
I've never liked fighting myself. I think that it can be solved in other ways, but I also believe that the English must get out of our homeland.
Nice talking to you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Smooth.
It was my pleasure.
Now back to you, Naomi and Cianna.
Thank you, Deidre and Mr. Smith.
Nobles have been affected very greatly by this war, but a class has endured more suffering than the nobles during this war.
Being a peasant during the 100 Years of War was a very difficult position to be in. Forced to fight against your own will and pay very high taxes, for example.
Live on the scene is Mary interviewing Miss Sarah Salt.
Today I'm going to be interviewing Sarah Salt. She's a peasant and would like to talk about her life as a peasant. So I heard that peasants were forced to fight in the army. What do you think about that?
I don't really think it's fair at all. People should be able to choose what they want to do. But of course, we all want to fight for our country.
Did you like fighting in the army?
No, I didn't like it at all. The conditions weren't very good and many people died.
I don't think that I would like it either. What happened if you survived in the army?
Well, those peasants are needed for other jobs, relied on by society to get what we all need.
It seems like a hard life. Tell me what taxes are like for peasants.
Taxes for peasants are more frequent and a lot higher than everybody else.
If you weren't a peasant, would you continue treating the peasants like they're horribly treated now?
No, of course not. But I understand that this country is under a lot of stress, and higher taxes are to be expected. Anyway, I wish we had more rights and weren't the lowest class.
Feudalism is slowly declining. Do you think that this will benefit the country?
Yes, I believe this will make our country stronger as a whole.
What's your opinion of Joan of Arc?
I think she's the best person ever, and is the savior this country has been looking for. She's a role model for us all, brave enough at 17 to fight a war and sacrificing her life for her country.
Do you think England's advantages over us will allow them to win the war?
Nope, not at all. I believe we'll pull through in the end. We may not have the army to do, but we have the drive to win this war.
Thanks for joining me, Julia. Back to you.
What a good interview. Thank you, Sarah and Mary.
As you can see, peasants were under a lot of stress. It was definitely difficult to be a peasant during this time. But there's one other girl who endured high amounts of stress, still managed to succeed.
After this commercial break, join us for an interview with the one and only Joan of Arc.
Hey, longbow, I see you by the car. I pull up my longbow and shoot you from afar. Hey, I'm too hard. You get it fast, I'm like, oh.
This is the Joan of Arc trials.
Joan of Arc, you are guilty of witchcraft and heresy, going against the police of our church.
Joining us today is Joan of Arc, the magnificent savior who won the Battle of Orleans for our beloved home France. Tell us a little about you, Joan.
Well, I am 17, and I love my country. I believe France will win this war. It has been nearly 100 years. We must drive England away. I will do anything to help my country, even if I must die.
As you can see, Joan of Arc is truly special, her determination being yet another example. Now tell us again, Joan, what were you accused of?
England accused me of being a heretic or a witch. I was captured by English allies. The church thinks I'm a threat, and all they want to do is eliminate me.
Was it difficult being 17 and in the middle of a war?
Yes, it was a huge struggle for me. God called me to fight, so I believe this was the right thing to do.
Speaking of fighting, what battles have you been in?
Many. Most were just small fights, not full-on battles. The most well-known of mine, of course, is the Battle of Orleans.
Have you won many?
Yes, often. In the beginning, the English were winning, defeating us more often than not. But the French are starting to pull through, like I knew they would.
Do you believe the English's so-called advantages over us will affect the outcome of the war, or do you think we can still win?
That is a difficult question. I believe the English may have a bigger, more advanced army, but we have the drive and faith in God needed in order to win this war, something that they lack.
This war has had many effects on society, including the decline of feudalism. Do you think this will benefit France or only cause problems?
I believe it will benefit this country. I believe with the decline of feudalism, society will become more equal. We can't purely rely on one class for everything we need. This will be good for the country.
Nobles, like knights, influence on society is slowly decreasing. Is this a good or a bad thing?
I believe this is a good thing. Most aren't even smart. We like them for their money.
What an interesting observation. Joining us is the incredible Joan of Arc, French's inspiration. She is truly an incredible individual. Thank you for your time, Joan. It is greatly appreciated. Now back to you, Cianna and Naomi.
This is a battle scene.
Little Miss Lane in the sun. Got a lot on her mind.
100 Years War, that's what we're talking about. You already know what's up. Home Scouts.
We are